What you got something to say? Speak.
I mean, you the one always talking about don't get high on your own supply, so pull off.
One of the main rules of the drug game is never get high on your own supply, or like Liliana used to say, if she doesn't cut it, she doesn't do it. The one time she broke her own rule, she found herself being held hostage by Merkovich and the Serbs, which almost cost her her life. For Jenard, unfortunately the clues were there since season 1, he was already on a downward spiral. He lost control over the CBI, his relationship with his brother deteriorated, and more importantly, the signs were there to tell us he was a drug addict. Now in this video, we are going to break down what led Jenard to taking heroin, the implications that this will have not just on him, but his organization, his relationships with Shanti, his brother, and also Tommy Egan. Now something I also think is worth referencing is the impact of drug addiction, and how quickly your life can turn upside down, and so a spoiler warning is now in effect for Snowfall Season 6. With the streets being flooded by drugs imported by the CIA, we saw how this impacted communities Franklin Saint originally wanted to help. His father was an addict who we were first introduced to on the street, and ironically life did come full circle for Franklin Saint. Now drug addiction is a complex issue which can manifest in different forms. There's drug addiction, alcohol, money, power, and many others. Albeit these are two complete different shows, the reason why I wanted to bring this in is because of what happened to Franklin Saint. And you can see what the writers of Force are doing. They're bringing back a lot of realism to power, and if Jenard isn't careful, his drug addiction can quickly spiral out of control, and he risks the same fate which is worse than death, just like what happened with Franklin. However, I do still feel like he has a long way to go and there still is time to turn this around, and I do think Jenard will. He will redeem himself at some point. But this is something that I will touch on later on when we talk about his relationship with Diamond and Tommy. But what led to this moment? The pressure was always building for Jenard following the split with his brother. There was a split with the soldiers from the CBI as well as territory, which left Jenard extremely vulnerable. Walter Flynn controls the north side, the Serbs occupy West Town, Little Village and Brighton Park is where Miguel Garcia operates from, and everything north of Marquette was CBI territory. He came to the meeting with Miguel Garcia light on cash, which was crazy on his part. He promised Merkovich territory that landed in Diamond's half, and because he wasn't able to deliver what he promised, he's now having to pay a tax to Merkovich. To add to his frustration, Tommy and Diamond got to Cousin Buddy before he did, and so the CBI had already expanded their reach to Gary. With all these issues, the last thing Jenard needed was a war with Tommy Egan and his brother.
But don't you start a war that you don't have a shot in hell in winning.
Jenard knew he couldn't beat his brother, which is why he pressed pause on Retaliation. Unfortunately, Little K taking matters into his own hands gave Jenard yet another problem to deal with. Killing a little girl meant the formation of a joint task force, and it also brought Tommy Egan to his doorstep. Now this is where it really got complicated for Jenard.
But is emotional about a white boy taking out Chewie. The way they see it, he gotta pay, and Lil K was in the right. If you take Lil K out now, you have a mutiny on your hands.
Many of those in treason believe Little K was in the right about retaliating on Tommy, and to be fair to them, I do think they were right. I do think they also had to retaliate for Chewie, so in treason's eyes, Little K had every right to take that shot on Tommy. Although there are a few ways we can look at this. Sometimes the best response is no response. Just sit back, be patient, look at the chessboard and analyze what situation you're in, and what the best possible move is, not just your next move, but your next 3. Create a plan and then attack when your enemies are least expecting it. But not everybody is as smart as Ghost was in power. Now unfortunately Little K's actions put Jenard in a really sticky situation. A situation which was a lose-lose whichever move he made. That's how fucked up Jenard's chessboard was in episode 3. If he killed Little K, he causes issues with his own organization for killing someone who had the right to retaliate. If he didn't kill Little K, then Tommy was going to find out who lit his car up, kill them, and then come for Jenard. So how was Jenard supposed to deal with the situation? There was no way he was getting out of this without any consequences from either side.
What you got something to say? Speak.
I mean, you the one always talking about don't get high on your own supply, so pull off.
Now, as Little K began to question him getting high on his own supply, this conversation spiraled out of control very quick, one which ended up in Little K's death. But before we get to Jenard taking heroin, what are the implications for killing Little K? That's one of the many questions I do think we should be asking going into episode 4. And so this brings me on to one of the scenes from the season trailer. We've got Jenard in a fight with one of his soldiers from treason, so you can only assume Jenard killing Little K is going to come to light very soon, and this is going to cause a huge fraction within treason. Jay's going to get into a fist fight with him, and then what does his organization do? Maybe move over to the CBI where the money is, but would they work for someone like Tommy Egan? Either way, Jenard's organization is completely fractured going forward. There's no way he can salvage this. So with that being said, that brings me on to his relationship with Shanti. Adrian Walker, who plays Shanti, gave an interview a while back, and she gave us a glimpse into the complexities of a character. Shanti, she's a lot and she's a boss. Shanti is not just a woman with aspirations, she's a force to be reckoned with. She also highlighted her role in owning a gym and her ambition. It's also clear that Shanti isn't content with a mediocre existence. She's a go-getter who's determined to carve her own path, no matter the obstacles in her way. She also teased how Shanti takes control over her own destiny, making strategic decisions along the way that align with her vision. Now that's the thing with Shanti, she's going to make decisions based on the things that align with her vision. And at this moment in time, that's not Jenard. He's about to lose control over his organization, and he's on heroin. So despite her being in Jay's corner during the early parts of season 2, at some point she's going to have a decision to make. Does she stick with him or does she jump ship? Or maybe even take control over treason herself. This is why I don't think we've seen what Shanti is capable of just yet, so let's keep an eye on her next move. Now, his relationship with Diamond is a little more complex. He was inside for 15 years, and there was a lot of love between them. That was until Diamond came out and took back control over the CBI. Eventually, Jenard did make his move on Diamond, but he failed, and then they went their separate ways. But with Jay turning to heroin, how bad will it get? This is another scene with Diamond and Tommy in a hospital we haven't seen yet. Maybe because Jenard took some bad product or is in a really bad way. So I do think the relationship between Jenard and Diamond goes hand in hand with Tommy. I do think Diamond will be there for his brother, and I do think Tommy will understand that, despite everything that's happened between them. I just don't see Diamond letting Jay becoming a druggie, despite what Jay did in the past. Let's not forget what Tommy and Ghost went through in Power. They disagreed on a lot of things, they argued, they fought, and they even crossed that line where they tried to kill each other. But despite everything that happened between them, Tommy came back to try and save Ghost, albeit he was too late. Ghost also made sure Kate was taken care of, and he also left a final gift for Tommy, which was his vintage 1969 Mustang. Now, one of the major characteristics that we also associate with Tommy is love, and his love for family. Despite him being dubbed the Grim Reaper and the Christmas Canceller, he actually does have a very big heart. He's both a sucker for love, and he's also huge on family. I mean, we only have to look at what recently went down with Tasha in New York, which is yet to come in the Force timeline. But it is an example of how big Tommy is when it comes to family. So despite all the beef between Tommy and Jenard, I do think he's going to understand Diamond's got to do what he's got to do. And if that means helping his brother overcome this drug addiction, then so be it. I can see Tommy saying, go handle your family business, and I'll hold down the CBI for as long as you need. The reason why I do feel like this is more likely to happen is because we are going to see Jenard coming back over to Team CBI, because they do have one common enemy, Merkovich. At some stage in season 2, we are going to see Jenard shooting at the Serbs, and I can actually see him redeeming himself by helping Tommy fight back. So I still do think there is a huge redemption story on the cards for Jenard, and it's only a waiting game to see how and why that happens. But judging by him turning to heroin, I can see Diamond being there for him when shit really gets bad, because right now he is in a bad way, and in the short term, it's only going to get a whole lot worse.
Because with that cauliflower ear, you ain't going to be hard to pick out of a lineup.
Jenard's woes just keep getting worse and worse as each episode passes by, and killing Little K may not just cause issues with treason. Little K's grandmother could very well pose a huge threat, and that's another problem that Jay may have to deal with in episode 4 or 5. With him being under the influence, we can't rule out anything, because he's completely lost control. We also have to bear in mind who deals heroin, Rojas' people. In season 1, Tommy and Diamond were sent on missions while the city were crawling with cops, and their task was to move heroin for Rojas. So I do wonder if this could cause some conflict, and not necessarily between the drug organizations. Diamond was given some advice by Mr. Reeves around how he has a second chance at life, and if he sees his brother suffering from drug addiction, will this alter Diamond's mind about the game they're in? I don't think that conversation with Mr. Reeves was there by accident. It's definitely something to consider, especially with Jenard's downward spiral. So with that being said, let me know your thoughts, because we've gone through a lot in this video, from Jenard's actions, his drug addiction, to his relationships. Can you see Diamond helping his brother, and will Tommy actually understand Diamond has to do what he has to do? I think we will, and at some point, I also feel Jenard will repay the favor.